On the day Chloe took her medical school clinical exams, that biker boy called. To help her focus on the exam, I set her phone to silent mode. Unexpectedly, the motorcycle gang kid got into a car accident. Chloe, who had just finished her exams, rushed to the hospital but didn't get to see him one last time. Later, Chloe became a renowned surgeon and married me. After marriage, she took advantage of her position to obtain controlled medications and secretly administered them to me. Gradually, I became bedridden with multiple organ failure. At my dying moment, she stood by my bedside and sneered, "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have missed my last chance to see Jax. Letting you die like this is still too merciful." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to before everything had happened. As soon as I woke, a man with shockingly white hair leaned against the wall, grinning as he raised an eyebrow at me. "Give me $30,000. $30,000, and I'll leave Chloe alone. I'm not dead. God has given me a second chance." Standing before me was the man responsible for all my misfortunes, also Chloe's childhood sweetheart and first love, Jax. He was a bar singer, apparently a high school dropout who came alone to make his way in our city. Jax was decent looking, but he mimicked the manners of a street punk, adopting a wild and unruly persona. His hair was slicked back with gel, clad in a black leather jacket, a cigarette dangling at a crooked angle from his lips, his defiant expression flickering faintly through the hazy veil of smoke. This has a fatal attraction for girls who follow the rules. The first time Chloe saw him, she was deeply drawn to him, and his rendition of a love song secretly won her heart. She started skipping classes to go on dates, learned to smoke and drink, and even sneaked out at midnight to ride motorcycles with Jax, showing off on the streets. But this man was no good. In my previous life, when he came to demand those $30,000 from me, I paid up just to keep Chloe away from him. I worked day and night, saving every penny from meal money and competition prizes, giving it all to Jax. But Jax didn't keep his word. He still called Chloe right before her exams. In my previous life, with my body ravaged by drugs and my arms slashed bloody by Chloe's scalpel, I trembled as I asked her, "Even if you had rushed there in time, do you really think Jax could have been saved? Besides, his feelings for you weren't pure. Back then Chloe's bloodshot eyes, filled with hatred, cut me off. If it weren't for you, Jax wouldn't have lost his will to live just because he couldn't see me. Had I been there, he would have fought to stay alive for my sake. You're the one who took Jax's life, and you'll atone for it with yours." Because I stopped that call, Chloe never got to see Jax one last time. She blames his death entirely on me. She believes that if she had just made it there in time, Jax wouldn't have died. It was my own meddling that kept them apart, making me the one who killed Jax. How ridiculous. I gave Chloe all my hard-earned savings to help her chase her dreams, but she had already quietly resolved to destroy me. Jax leaned against the wall, raising an eyebrow at me with a smirk. "Give me $30,000, 30 grand, and I'll leave Chloe alone. Why ask me for money?" I thought for a moment before asking calmly. "I'm asking you because you're in love with her." "What, isn't 30,000 a bargain to get the woman you adore back? Get her back? Ha ha ha." The 18-year-old Ethan might have missed the calculation in his eyes, but at 28, after staring death in the face, Jax's petty scheming was utterly transparent to me now. I stopped laughing, my expression instantly turning icy as I fixed my gaze tightly on Jax. "You weren't the one who fell head over heels for Chloe at first sight, writing love song after love song for her, clinging to each other like glue, loving with such fiery passion." Jax lowered his eyelids, shrugged his shoulders, trying his best to maintain an air of indifference. "You wouldn't understand, bookworm. In all my years running these streets, what kind of woman haven't I seen? A good girl like Chloe, she makes your fingers itch to drag her into the mud, to watch her rot and stink with trash like me." He stepped forward and tapped my shoulder, his face filled with a condescending sneer. "Of course, even the most delicious dish gets tiresome after eating it too much. I've had my fun, here, you can have her back. But I trained her real nice. Can't give her to you for free, you owe me a $30,000 training fee." "Ah!" My fist smashed into his face, sending him flying backward before he crashed heavily onto the ground. Not for Chloe, but for my blind past life. "What happens between you and Chloe is none of my business. I won't interfere with her anymore, do whatever you want." I tugged at my collar impatiently and turned to leave. Maybe because my expression was too frightening, or perhaps because I'd beaten Jax badly enough, he actually didn't chase after me. As I walked, something felt off, so I turned back to where I'd met Jax and secretly observed him from behind the wall. My gut tells me this matter might not be so simple. Jax didn't notice me. He was holding his face in his hands, yelling angrily into the phone. "Fuck. Didn't he like you so much? How did he suddenly become so heartless? Am I asking for too much? Seems to me your charm isn't enough to keep a man hooked. Enough already, damn it. Who gives a shit about your childhood stories? Hurry up and think of something. I can't delay repaying these $15,000 anymore. The loan sharks have come to collect several times. If I can't come up with it this month, they'll chop my fucking hands off." Jax's voice softened even more, laced with temptation. "My dear Chloe, I know you love me most, and I love you too. Ethan's easy to fool, just say some sweet words to him and he'll immediately fall at your feet. Talent scouts have already shown interest in me, they want to produce my album. You know how well I can sing. With just a little investment, I'll become famous overnight, taking America by storm. When I'm rich, my retreating footsteps slowly drew back. So in my previous life, Chloe knew Jax came to me for money. In fact, it was she who sent Jax to rip off this easy target me. After I paid off Jax's debt, they didn't break up as promised. They carried on their affair right under my nose until that phone call exposed everything. I snorted with laughter and sauntered back to the classroom, only to be summoned to the teacher's office by the math instructor. Ethan, the admissions officer from Harvard, was just here. They said as long as you agree to join the math department, they can offer you an early admission spot. Why do you insist on applying to pre-med? Wouldn't it be better to play to your strengths in this field? The math teacher advised me earnestly, looking at me with the gaze reserved for a lost child, full of regret. In my previous life, I had firmly declined my teacher's offer, giving up the early admission spot at Harvard. After the college entrance exams, Chloe and I ended up getting into the same university's pre-med program together. But truly, I had no talent. Studying day and night couldn't compare to Chloe's half-hearted efforts. What's more, I had a fear of blood. I couldn't become a doctor. In the end, I could barely graduate, let alone become a successful physician. I followed closely behind Chloe like a shadow, having long lost my own brilliance. Thank you for your kindness, Professor. I accept. There was no way I would willingly suffer like that again in this lifetime. I want to shine brilliantly in my own field. She was chewing gum, wearing a black tight-fitting tank top that revealed her fair arms, with her school uniform jacket casually tied around her waist to avoid teacher inspections. She ambled over carelessly, carrying an oil paper bag, and tossed it onto my desk. I was wearing headphones and memorizing vocabulary words. The sudden interruption filled me with irritation. Looking back at the desk, the greasy paper bag contained 3 already cold donuts, clearly leftovers from someone else's meal. Chloe folded her arms condescendingly. You haven't eaten breakfast yet, have you? I bought this especially for you. Jax said yesterday he went to find you. I didn't respond. Using my index finger to hook the paper bag, I simply tossed it into the trash. Ethan, Chloe clearly didn't expect me to humiliate her like this, and the stares from our classmates made the situation even more unbearable for her. She clenched her teeth, her eyes burning with fury. Ethan, what do you mean by this? Did I offend you? I silently lowered my eyes. This was the girl I'd loved for so many years. When we were children, she would always hold my hand, calling me Big Brother Ethan, her sparkling eyes filled with nothing but me. I too gave her everything best I had, even when it meant swallowing my own grievances. I couldn't bear to see her sad. That little girl who once made solemn vows with me to get into medical school together and fulfill our dreams was ultimately gone. If it's for that $30,000, I'm sorry, I don't have it. Chloe's almond-shaped eyes widened in embarrassment. No, it's not that. I won't look after you anymore. Take care of yourself for the rest of your life. It felt like I was back on that cold bed again, listening to Chloe's hysterical laughter. Chloe stormed off angrily. After school, passing by a narrow alley, I saw her there arguing with Jax. Amid their quarrel, Jax suddenly pulled Chloe into his arms, and the two just started kissing like that. It was like one of those passionate embraces from Hollywood films, abrupt and awkward. Chloe's eyes were misty as she looked at Jax, filled with tenderness and longing. I walked silently through the alley, faint voices drifting into my ears. Chloe, please, you have to help me. Maybe ask your parents. I still remember in my past life, I once asked Chloe why she fell for Jax. She said their love was pure, untainted by worldly concerns. They loved for the sake of love itself. Unlike me, always pushing her to study, monitoring her meals, even nagging when she came home a bit late. But is this so-called pure love she wants really just about helping Jax repay his debts? In the evening, Mr. and Mrs. Miller came to my house with Chloe. My parents welcomed them in and, seeing the Millers' gloomy expressions, asked in surprise what was wrong. That kid Chloe, she hit someone while riding her bike. The other party is demanding $15,000 in compensation, or they'll sue her. Chloe has exams coming up soon. She can't afford any trouble at this critical moment. A chill ran through me, from the top of my head down to my toes. For Jax, Chloe would truly do anything. $15,000 is no small sum for an ordinary working-class family. Chloe beside me kept her head lowered, her hands nervously twisting the hem of her clothes while her feet occasionally shuffled against the floor. I really didn't mean to. I rolled my eyes inwardly with a cold laugh. Just how long had it been since Chloe last rode a bicycle? I just had surgery. Old Mr. Miller has heart problems, and we frankly don't have that kind of money at home. Her father and I simply couldn't. We wanted to ask if your family could lend us 7,500 yen. We promised to pay it back by next year's end. In my previous life, with a gullible fool like me around, Chloe probably didn't need to swindle so much from her parents, which was why they'd never come begging like this before. Watching Mrs. Miller continuously wiping her tears and Mr. Miller sighing deeply, my heart ached with sorrow. Since I was old enough to understand, our families have lived across from each other, and they've watched me grow up like my own elders. I truly resent Chloe, but they are not at fault. In my past life, when we got married, they had already passed away. My memories of them remain frozen in that earlier time. Slowly, I stood up, intending to speak the truth. But Mr. Miller's next words made me sink back into my seat. We've discussed it at home, my husband and I. Chloe and your Ethan have been close since childhood, and they're bound to end up together. How about this? You give us $75,000 as a dowry, and we'll be one family from then on. Mrs. Miller nodded in agreement. Absolutely. The two kids grew up together, childhood sweethearts we've watched grow. Both our families are beyond reproach. Let's settle it now. And once they graduate, they can register their marriage and hold the wedding. Not only were they trying to shift that $15,000 shortfall onto me, but they were also using marriage as leverage to turn a loss into a gain. My parents exchanged bewildered glances, caught off guard by this sudden proposal. Seeing that our family showed no reaction, Mrs. Miller grew somewhat displeased. What's $75,000? You know how brilliant our Chloe is, a medical prodigy who could recite entire pharmacology textbooks in middle school. Exams are just a formality for her. Her future is limitless. Mr. Miller was equally proud of his daughter and joined in praising Chloe. Although Ethan studies well too, he's still far behind our Chloe. If we weren't truly in a tight spot, we'd never let your boy have her for just $75,000. Once Chloe graduates, mark my words, people would gladly pay $750,000, let alone $75,000. The Millers' words weren't pleasant to hear. My parents neither agreed nor refused outright, but instead turned their gaze toward me. They certainly knew how much Chloe meant to me. Glancing at the nervous Chloe, I let out an angry laugh. This family was truly something else. Then again, what kind of parents could raise a daughter like Chloe in the first place? And to think I still cared about friendship. Had they not died so early, they would surely have treated me like an ATM, just like Chloe did. Uncle, Auntie, we're still too young to be talking about marriage right now. Plans can change in the blink of an eye. Who knows what the future holds? As for Chloe hitting someone, I think you should report it to the police. How serious could a bicycle accident be? It sounds like a scam to extort money. Besides, a typical traffic accident wouldn't stay on one's criminal record. As soon as I finished speaking, the Millers seemed to have an epiphany, but Chloe grew restless. Mom, Dad, it's really serious. If you don't give me the money, someone could die. Don't listen to Ethan, he just doesn't want to give us the money. He's deliberately trying to hurt me. This didn't sit well with my parents. Chloe, how could you say that? Why would our Ethan want to hurt you? Despite his hemophobia, he's working hard to prepare for med school entrance exams with you. You know exactly how he treats you. That's right, Chloe. I don't mean to criticize, but you're a student. Why have you been dressing so flashy lately? With exams coming up, you're still running around late at night. The Millers glanced between Chloe and me, seeming torn about what to decide. Auntie, Uncle, it's not that my family doesn't want to lend you money, but I got early admission to Harvard, and we're planning to move to Boston soon. We don't even know how long our savings will last there, so we really can't touch this money easily. I dropped the bombshell and shrugged, indicating there was nothing I could do. You got accepted? Since when? Why didn't you tell me? Chloe turned pale with shock, jumping up from her seat and pointing at me while shouting her accusations. I shook my head with a smile. Why should I tell you? What's it to you? After seeing off the devastated Miller family, my parents pulled me aside excitedly to ask about the early admission offer, and I explained everything to them truthfully. It's nothing short of a miracle. I'm going to call your uncle and your aunt. Our Ethan has really made something of himself. After their excitement died down, my parents asked me what was going on with Chloe. You've liked Chloe since childhood. $75,000 isn't a small amount, but if you want, I quickly cut off my parents' words. In my past life, Chloe left me bedridden, and my parents exhausted all their savings for me. To earn money, my father drove trucks but died instantly when fatigue caused him to crash through a bridge railing. Unable to bear the shock, my mother fell ill and passed within 2 months. In my name, Chloe claimed all my parents' insurance money, squandering every penny on herself. Not a cent was spent on my care. I told them Chloe had a boyfriend and that I had long since stopped having feelings for her. I spoke with finality, and when my parents encountered the Millers afterward, they were noticeably cooler toward them. Perhaps because I received early admission, Mr. and Mrs. Miller became even more enthusiastic about trying to arrange a marriage between us. They visited several more times, but under the glow of my acceptance to a top university, there was much less of their former arrogance and superiority. After being rejected by my parents a few times, they always spoke about our family to the neighbors with sarcasm. So what if they got admitted early? Do they really think they're better than everyone else now, looking down on us old neighbors? What's the use of just burying their head in books? When they enter society, they'll still end up working for some boss. Do they really think early admission means they're better than our Chloe? We'll see about that in the future. Chloe glared at me coldly and uttered a vicious threat. Ethan, you'd better not regret treating me like this. I told my parents not to worry, since I was planning to take them with me when I moved to the East. Given a second chance at life, I might not necessarily become fabulously wealthy, but ensuring my parents live comfortably and contentedly is definitely within my power. With exams approaching, Chloe also returned to school and stopped skipping classes. Chloe was truly a deserving genius. At midnight, she accompanied Jax to perform at the bar, getting into jealous competitions with female patrons. She also rode on the back of Jax's motorcycle, roaring down the road amidst a group of bikers. By daylight, she obediently sat by the classroom window, writing furiously. Under such circumstances, her grades made it nearly certain that she would get into the medical school pre-med program of her dreams. Unfortunately, time soon arrived at the day of the most crucial exam. In the morning, Chloe and I left the house at the same time. She glanced sideways at me and then walked away as if she hadn't seen me. Ever since our families fell out, she stopped talking to me. This was the most effective way she could think of to deal with me. After all, in the past, whenever she gave me the cold shoulder, I couldn't resist trying to win her back. Soon after, her phone rang. It was on this very day in my past life that we went to take an exam together. I arrived at Chloe's place early and waited, even carrying her backpack for her. So when the phone rang, I saw the caller ID immediately and muted it without hesitation. At the time, I didn't know what Jax wanted to say or what would happen next. I just instinctively didn't want him to disturb Chloe at such a crucial moment. Undisturbed, Chloe lived up to expectations, excelling in her college pre-med program, being invited back as an associate professor after graduation, and rising steadily through the ranks. I really want to see how she would choose in this lifetime, without me standing in her way. I watched as Chloe answered the phone, her expression shifting from joy to panic. She screamed into the phone, "Are you okay? Which hospital are you at? I'll come right away, you have to hold on." After hanging up, Chloe stood there, utterly lost. She glanced at the admission ticket in her hand, then touched her phone again, as if wrestling with a difficult decision. Love and prospects, passion and future, each step she took would alter the outcome of her past life. Finally, Chloe gritted her teeth, quickly flagged down a taxi, and was about to leave as she opened the car door. The Millers, who had accompanied her to the exam, immediately stepped forward and grabbed Chloe. "Chloe, where are you going? You have an exam today. What's wrong with you? Who was that just now on the phone?" Chloe flung Mrs. Miller's hand away and snapped irritably. "My friend was in a car accident and is being taken to the hospital right now. I need to go see him, don't try to stop me." The Millers were shocked by their daughter's lack of discernment and angrily stepped forward to stop her, refusing to let Chloe go to the hospital no matter what. "What kind of friend could be more important than your exam? This test determines your future. Are you out of your mind? After the exam, you can look at it however you want, but right now you have to go take your test." The more Chloe was stopped, the less she listened to reason. She frantically slapped at the Miller's grasping hands, desperately trying to force her way into the taxi. Their tug-of-war drew quite a few neighbors who stopped to gossip. The driver wouldn't dare take such passengers. He floored the gas, leaving behind only exhaust fumes. In her struggle, Chloe caught sight of me among the gawking crowd. "Ethan," she cried, dashing toward me to hide behind my back. "Please help me convince my parents. Jax got into a car accident. I need to go to him immediately." In my heart, Jax means more to me than anything else. If I fail the exams, I can retake them next year, but I can't live without him. The Millers were not well off, and the couple had pinned all their hopes on their only daughter. The pre-med program Chloe aimed for was long and expensive, with tuition fees outrageously high. In my past life, it was I who worked to earn money to put Chloe through college. Relatives and neighbors all say I'm dependable, a good family man. But when Chloe heard this, she just scoffed and even said things like, "If he can't feed himself, that's his own fault." The Millers stopped in front of me, reaching out to grab Chloe, the three of them circling around me. "Ethan, Chloe may not know better, but you're a good kid. You need to help Uncle talk some sense into Chloe. Something as important as exams can't be skipped. Chloe's going to marry you someday. You should care more about this." They acted as if suffering from amnesia, utterly forgetting all the harsh words they had exchanged before. "Yes, Ethan. Chloe always listened to you as a child. You can't just abandon her now. After all, you grew up together. You can't stand by and watch her ruin herself." Every word from the Millers was layered with emotional blackmail. By the end, they even tried to pin the blame on me for Chloe skipping her exams. If you were better, Chloe wouldn't have fallen for someone else. If she skips the exam, it'll be all your fault. So they all knew. They knew Chloe had someone else in her heart, knew exactly who she wanted to meet. Yet despite knowing, they still came to my house, pretending nothing had happened, casually talking about our future marriage. They really think our whole family are fools. I'm done. I won't play their game anymore. I roared furiously, silencing everyone. "What does Ethan have to do with your family? We're just neighbors. Is Chloe so unwanted that she has to chase after me? Let me say something unpleasant. For the past 6 months, Chloe's been involved with local gangsters. Don't tell me you didn't know. Uncle and auntie. She even has a man's name tattooed on her chest. Most decent employers wouldn't hire someone like that. Just as I said this, Mr. Miller accidentally pulled at Chloe's collar, revealing a massive black tattoo in artistic font, the character Jod glaringly conspicuous against her pale skin. The gathered neighbors immediately erupted in whispers and murmurs. I saw the Miller's daughter coming back late at night, followed by some white-haired punk. Ethan's not wrong. At such a young age, she's already fooling around with other men. Who knows if they're diseased or anything? It's just disgusting. And those Millers ain't much better, aren't they? Their own kid skips an exam, and instead of scolding her, they blame the neighbors across the hall? The Millers flushed red with embarrassment, only able to repeat that their daughter was a genius, destined for greatness in the future. At that moment, Chloe got fired up again. You're lying. Jax isn't a thug. We're in love. How dare you say such awful things to me? Apologize, or I'll make sure you never see me again for the rest of your life. Laughter and jeers erupted around us immediately. I locked eyes with Chloe, watching her flinch under my gaze. Alright, let us vow right now never to appear before each other again. The Millers could no longer maintain their composure. Gripping Chloe tightly, they dragged her swiftly toward the examination hall. Chloe ran off. She broke free from the Miller's grasp, dashed across the street, and hopped into a taxi that was parked nearby. The Millers chased after her desperately. Mrs. Miller, already in poor health and having just undergone surgery, collapsed on the spot after just a few steps, overwhelmed by rage. I thought about it, what if the Millers blamed this mess on me? Better to keep an eye on things, so I joined some helpful neighbors in carrying Mrs. Miller onto the ambulance. The hospital she was taken to by ambulance turned out to be the same one where Ajax had been sent. The group was reunited, albeit in a different way. Ajax's leg was indeed broken, but not from the car accident in his previous life. His leg had been broken by loan sharks. Upon waking in the hospital corridor, Mrs. Miller opened her eyes to see 5 or 6 burly men surrounding Ajax and Chloe. The notoriously wild and unruly Ajax now cowered like a coward behind Chloe's back. Chloe, the warrior of pure love, desperately spread her arms wide, shielding Jax behind her like a mother hen. It's just a few tens of thousands of dollars. What's the big deal? How dare you break his leg? I'm warning you, get out of here right now, or I'll call the police. The men burst into laughter. Little girl, if a few tens of thousands isn't much to you, then why don't you pay it for him? Bring us the money, and we'll leave without another word. She had no money at all, standing frozen in place, speechless. Jax, however, didn't see it that way. To him, Chloe was his savior. He poked his head out from behind Chloe and shouted loudly, "She's my girlfriend, and all the debts I owe Chloe will pay them for me." After saying this, he nudged Chloe from behind, urging, "Just say you'll help me pay it off. If you promise to pay my debts, we can get married right away. You know, talent scouts have already come to sign contracts with me. I'm about to make it big. What's this small change compared to me becoming a billionaire soon?" Chloe naturally knew her family wasn't well off, but she genuinely wanted to be with Jax forever. As she hesitated over her decision, she suddenly spotted Mr. Miller pushing a hospital gurney toward her. Chloe's eyes lit up as she rushed over, her voice brimming with excitement. "Mom, Dad, quick, give me $15,000, I'm marrying Jax." One sentence made Mrs. Miller, who had just woken up, roll her eyes and faint again. As our family was packing up to move to Boston, the house across the street changed ownership from the Millers to someone else. Mrs. Miller suffered too great a shock this time and is paralyzed in bed. She might never recover. And that Jake's boy owes far more than $15,000, that's just the interest. Yet that foolish girl Chloe insists on paying his debts for him, threatening to jump off a building otherwise. They only have this one daughter. There's no other way, they had to sell the house. Mom and Dad shook their heads while folding clothes, sighing with emotion. Thank goodness you came to your senses. If she had latched onto you. Not that she didn't try. Chloe came looking for me several times. From the initial arrogance, demanding money from me with an open mouth, to groveling and begging me for a loan, even willing to write an IOU. Yet I never agreed, not giving her a single cent. She finally realized with crystal clarity that I truly had no feelings left for her. Have you forgotten how you used to treat me? I know my attitude toward you was poor before. Can't I just apologize? Won't you forgive me? If we can't be lovers, can't we at least be friends? She wouldn't give up, bringing out childhood photo albums and every gift I gave her during our first 18 years together, desperately trying to rekindle my affection for her. Truth be told, without that safety net, she simply couldn't handle it alone. Of course, Chloe never made it to university. She personally abandoned that hard-won opportunity for entrance exams, choosing love instead between them. The once town-famous prodigy girl has now become the cautionary tale neighbors used to educate their children. The Millers wanted her to repeat the year, but she refused because she was pregnant. No matter what mistakes we've made, the child is innocent. Though born into a modest family, this child will have parents who love them dearly. Chloe was determined to keep their love child. She even came to me, asking me to persuade her parents. She caressed her belly, her face glowing with maternal love. "Ethan, help me one more time. When I give birth, you'll be the godfather. You know how smart I am. This child will surely accomplish great things. If you're kind to them now, they'll never forget you when they're grown. Thanks, But no, I refused outright. Chloe, infuriated, lashed out. I'm giving you a chance here. With how dull and boring you are, what woman would ever look at you? When you die, there might not even be anyone to arrange your funeral. Because of the pregnancy, Mr. and Mrs. Miller had no choice but to grudgingly accept it and stopped opposing Chloe being with Jax. One could say Chloe got her wish in the end. As for Jax's talk of making something of himself, it was all pure fantasy. There are far too many people in this world who can sing. He just got a few compliments, took them to heart, and right now, he's still performing at the same old little bar. I touched my chest and asked, do I still hate? In this reborn life, I won't let myself dwell in past resentments. This lifetime, as a Harvard freshman, countless opportunities await me. Comparing my current circumstances to my past life, I realize I didn't do anything extraordinary, I simply let go of one wrong choice. Yet it led me to this broad road with boundless prospects. Before heading to college, I attended the class reunion organized by my peers. A few of my close buddies gathered around, teasing me good-naturedly. Ethan's the real deal, man. Ivy League. Think I'll ever get to piss in one of their bathrooms in this lifetime? Don't forget us old pals when you make it big later. Just as the banter was heating up, someone suddenly brought it up. What about Chloe? The room fell silent for a moment, then someone spoke up. Last time I went to the hospital for medicine, I saw that white-haired guy taking Chloe for a prenatal checkup. The crowd immediately burst into chatter. What? Already pregnant right after graduation? So that means they must have been. TSK. I always thought Chloe was so smart. Didn't expect her to play around like this. Ethan, do you still like her? Some sighed with pity, others gossiped excitedly, while a few watched me maliciously, waiting to see me humiliated. I smiled and picked up a glass of wine, my first drink as an adult. I took a sip, bitter and sharp at first, but with a subtle sweetness lingering afterward. Before I could reply, the door swung open. Chloe, her face sallow as though aged 10 years, walked in carrying the LV bag I'd once bought for her. The room fell silent for a moment as all eyes dropped to her flat stomach, then turned away in tacit agreement to pick up other conversations. The private room grew noisy again as Chloe took a seat in the empty spot, with no one stepping forward to speak to her. She sat isolated, as if separated by an invisible barrier from the lively crowd around her. A fleeting look of confusion passed through Chloe's eyes before her gaze swept over the crowd and finally settled firmly on me. Ethan, long time no see. I gave her a slight nod before turning back to drink and chat with my friends beside me. There was a malicious classmate, a defeated rival in the competition for early admission, who rolled his eyes and brought back that awkward topic again. Ethan, you and Chloe were childhood sweethearts. You used to have feelings for her. Is there any chance those old flames might reignite? Chloe's gaze was inscrutable, her complex expression taking me by surprise. I turned to the provocateur with a smile. Hope to see you at Harvard next year, underclassman. The class reunion ended, and Chloe blocked my path. Her voice choked with tears as she demanded, Ethan, if you like me so much, why didn't you stop me back then? If you'd been willing to push me, I would have kept studying and wouldn't have gone wild like that. If you'd gone to college with me, you would have definitely stopped me from taking that call from Jax. I smiled, so she had come back too. I bent slightly to look directly into her eyes. What if I did that, would you hate me forever, torture me cruelly, and finally kill me? Her hands clenched tightly, her voice hoarse. You really are. She suddenly raised her head, clutching my sleeve in desperation. Ethan, I know I was wrong, I've already paid the price. Please forgive me. We can start over. The price Chloe spoke of was her child. One night, Jax came home drunk, venting all his resentment about his unrecognized talents and inability to rise in the world onto Chloe. Amid the punches and kicks, by the time the Millers heard the commotion and rushed out to intervene, it was already too late. Chloe's barely 5-month-old fetus had been beaten out of her. Afterward, Jax knelt on the ground, slapping himself violently and howling apologies to her. In that moment, Chloe suddenly regained memories from her past life. I never thought he was that kind of person. Now whenever he suffers outside, he comes back demanding money from me and even beats me. I've given so much for him. Why does he treat me like this? She recalled her persistence from her past life, yet also remembered how successful she had been in achieving academic honors at school, forming a stark contrast to her current miserable state. Chloe, I didn't want to say much to you originally, but now that you've remembered too, I think it's better to make things clear. We're both tasting the bitter fruits of our wrong choices. Without another word, I turned to leave when suddenly a vicious gaze settled upon me. Under the street lamp, Jax was staring at us with piercing intensity. The ground around him was littered with cigarette butts. He must have been standing there for a long time. Finished pouring your hearts out to each other? He clenched his fists and began pacing toward us step by step. Whore, trying to make the backup take my place now? I always knew you never truly loved me, hiding all the household money from me, feeding me lies about investments. I see now you were just planning to run off with your old flame, taking all the cash with you. Jax didn't even glance at me when he arrived. His first move was to punch Chloe. You worthless bitch. You said you'd love me forever, but you ruined my whole damn life. If not for you, that rich sugar mama would have taken me with her. Without you, I'd be rolling in cash by now. Now I'm stuck squeezing into this 40 square meter dump with your parents. Can't even afford a year's heating bill. If I could do it all over again, I'd never pick a trashy woman like you. I left silently and dialed the police. Whether Chloe chooses to cry for help is her business. I'm no knight in shining armor. Saving her isn't my role to play. As I left, I only heard Chloe murmur, if I could start over. I went to Boston with my parents. The academic atmosphere of top-tier universities was utterly captivating. When you stand at higher levels, everyone around you is equally exceptional. The youthful emotions that once seemed so important now appear utterly childish. After graduation, drawing from my past life's experience, I chose the emerging short video industry, keeping pace with the trends of the times and earning a fortune. Apart from being single at marriageable age, I'm practically the perfect son in my parents' eyes. Another year passed, and I accompanied my parents back to our hometown to visit relatives. We happened to run into our old neighbors, and my parents struck up a conversation with them. Suddenly, an aunt slapped her thigh and asked, "Do you remember our former neighbors? That Chloe girl who grew up with your Ethan?" I paused while lifting my bottle of mineral water, just as the aunt continued. Her parents passed away one after another last year. She took the insurance money, went to work in a factory by herself, and kept trying to retake the college entrance exams. Rumor has it her scores were decent. She actually had a chance to get in, but then her thug of a boyfriend got into drugs. Short on cash, he forced her to work as a bartender at some bar. TSK, TSK, TSK. The aunt sneered, lowering her voice slightly. Caught an STD, and then her boyfriend dumped her and ran off with the money. That's when she lost it. She keeps telling people she's a top graduate from some prestigious university, a nationally renowned surgeon. Goes on and on about how talented she was, how bright her future could have been, all ruined by that boyfriend of hers. Oh, and she mentioned your Ethan too. Hearing this, Mom and Dad frowned, while Auntie seemed oblivious and happily continued sharing the gossip, saying she wronged Ethan, saying she should have married Ethan for a blissful life. When the family visit ended, my parents immediately took me back to Boston without a moment's delay. They found the whole affair inauspicious. That evening, an unknown number called me. The first time Chloe saw him, she was deeply captivated, and her heart secretly longed for him after hearing the love song he sang. She said, "Ethan, how have you been lately?" Without saying a word, I hung up the phone and promptly blocked the number. The next time I saw news about Chloe and Jax was in a crime report. Chloe found Jax, who had been hiding from her, and delivered 22 stab wounds, every single one aimed at a vital spot. In the video, Jax lay flat on the ground, already lifeless, but Chloe, with tears streaming down her face, didn't stop. Stab after stab. She drove the knife down with force. Chloe finally used everything she had learned in her past life, all of it, on Jax. It's all because of you. If not for you, how happy I could have been. I was blind, to have fallen for scum like you. Nothing cuts deeper than knowing you could have had happiness, only to destroy it with your own hands. After stabbing Jax, she stood laughing wildly in the pool of blood, muttering something about past lives and present incarnations. True to her reputation as a former surgical expert in her past life, Jax died instantly, no need for an ambulance, straight to the morgue. As for Chloe, she was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. Life is always full of regrets. How many people wish for a second chance to settle old grudges from past lives? But even with another chance, could things truly end satisfactorily? Is it, if only life could be as sweet as first meeting, or growing old together with you? The end.